Hi, we're live. Go ahead, Don.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday edition of Sports Conversation on the Fightnwords Network. I'm Don Henderson. We've got a great group of people around the country to talk about sports tonight, and we're really looking forward to an excellent show with so much going on in so many different directions. We always start off in Tampa, Florida. Roy Cummings joins us at the outset. He will do so tonight. Roy, we had to start with the, I think, World Baseball Classic. What a game last night. Your observations, certainly Rogers in Atlanta too. But we'll start with you, Roy. Go to it.
Yeah, what a tremendous tournament it was. A lot of surprises. Italy going as far as they did, Venezuela winning it at the end. The atmosphere was tremendous throughout the entire tournament, everywhere they played. Japan not getting to the finals, even getting to the quarters. I mean, it was just really a remarkable tournament with, again, lots of surprises. And I got to say, guys, not that we'd be rooting for them necessarily, but I guess maybe against anyone else we would be. But for Venezuela last night, that had to be the equivalent of their miracle on ice. For them to beat the U.S. on the U.S. home turf in that big of a game against that kind of a lineup, what a remarkable achievement for Venezuela. And you could just tell how much it meant to those guys who've been through so much and fought so hard to develop baseball in their communities and their homes back in Venezuela, which is obviously not an easy place to live. And what a great tournament. There's lots of drama. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing we got another week before the Major League Baseball season starts, because some of those guys are going to need that week to come down off of that high, and the fans are going to need something to get boosted up again. Maybe hopefully opening day can do it. It's going to be a while before we see that level of excitement.
Roger, I think you have to be very disappointed in the U.S. offense, because you went 8 innings last night with really a total shutdown by Venezuela. Their pitching staff throughout the entire series has been great. And you add to that the fact that they had a 4-pitch walk and then a home run by Bryce Harper, tied the game at 2-2, and it only took them a couple of batters in the top of the next inning to take the lead 3-2 and win the series. And as Roy said, just an amazing result. And you can see the enthusiasm of that country, that team, and everybody involved.
Well, absolutely. The entire series was just a classic, really, and very exciting, and it kept everybody's attention. And if you're a baseball lover, there was a little bit of everything. And as Roy alluded to, the Japanese getting knocked out fairly early, really, and Venezuela winning the whole thing, where the U.S. was considered the favorite. But Harper's home run added a little bit to the lack of power by the U.S. team. And Schwarber had one, and what I'm thinking is this was a continuation of the postseason of the two big Phillies hitters, but they weren't alone. I mean, it was overall, and on the pregame show several times, they said that the U.S. players were going to have to really score some runs and do some damage offensively. And it wound up being tremendous pitching tools, but just really happy for Venezuela. And what else was nice was to see packed houses at the Miami stadium, which you don't see during the regular baseball season.
Well, they had a great turnout all told. They talked about the fact that, each year that they played the tournament, the crowd has increased, and, of course, playing in Miami last night and so forth, really a very good-sized crowd for that facility. The other thing to mention, Roy, Judge, of course, struck out 3 times, hit a weak ground ball to the infield. The power hitters, as Roger suggested, just didn't do anything, and the one Philly in Bryce, he had the only long ball in the game for the U.S.
Yeah, I know everyone is surprised by that, and rightfully so. I mean, with that lineup, you would think that they could generate a little bit more offense. So, guys, look, it's the oldest baseball adage there is. Good pitching will beat good hitting every time, and that's exactly what Venezuela threw at the U.S. I mean, look, Eduardo Rodriguez is not a household name for most baseball fans, but that doesn't mean he's not an effective pitcher. He put together 4 really good innings for him, and then Andres Machado, who, if you're a Nationals fan, you might remember him from a few years ago, not a bad reliever, but he's clearly learned something over the last couple of years in Japan, because he came in there and just throwing heat. And then, the Cubs closer, Daniel Palencia, who's become a bit of a star here in this World Baseball Classic, proving that he's capable of shutting the team down in the 9th inning again. 2 saves in a row for him, big game there. And, obviously that's just what it came down to. It just came down to, who's going to pitch a little bit better. Look, you can't take anything away from the U.S. pitching either. Nolan McLean looked great. Brad Keller looked good. Will Best, and Nolan Jackson. They really, it was, as you said, a pitcher's duel. And when you get into a pitcher's duel, it just takes one little, one hit, one stolen base. Somebody gets on base and makes something happen. Next thing you know, if you give up a gap double, as happened last night with Whitlock, well, all of a sudden you're on the wrong end of the score, and that's how it came out. So, great defense throughout as well, and really, really good baseball. It was great to see.
And Roger, as you pointed out, $1.4 million. It is the 6th year of the event, and of course that is far superior to anything that they've done so far.
Yeah, well, they had great crowds in Houston too. And I think that especially with Venezuela in the finals last night, that really drew a lot of the Florida, Venezuela residents and fans, obviously. They said even more so than U.S., but I don't know about that. But once again, I thought the Fox did a fantastic job overall. And having the aerial views, I guess, every night and bringing you in. And I thought the pregame, I really feel that Derek Jeter has become a tremendous analyst. I mean, he doesn't really play into a lot of the laughing, and the funny stuff from Big Papi. And Alex Rodriguez is good. I think Kevin Burkhardt does a tremendous job of keeping everything, focused. But I really appreciate Derek Jeter, and I love that interview he did, with Judge, the previous captain to the current captain of the Yankees.
Yeah, and I think he does. He keeps it more in line with the game. He doesn't get into personality type things. And his first comment last night, was exactly that. The kind of atmosphere and what we're talking about here, and the responsibility of the players to accept that and play. The 2 things they talked about more than anything else, which one I agree with and one I disagree with. One is they think they have to put the automatic balls and strikes in this series as they do in Major League Baseball starting this year, giving the players a chance to protest balls and strikes. I didn't think the umpiring was bad myself, and especially the call second base. I thought it was a tremendous call on that stolen base, and also a tremendous move by the manager of Venezuela to create that stolen base position. I thought those 2 things were very important, and I just don't think that the umpiring was bad. Not myself. You guys, Roger, Roy.
I don't either. Go ahead, Roy.
No, I thought the umpiring was great. Very solid. I mean, look, they're not going to get every pitch right. They're not going to get every tag perfectly right. I mean, you could make an argument about the stolen base, but it was too close to call, to overturn it, I should say. But yeah, I think for the most part, look, these are major league umpires, so that worked out well. And always going to have some guys who maybe look at it again and say, okay, looks like it might have been outside of the strike zone. Probably should have, gotten a ball on that call. But look, overall, you didn't see anybody really complaining. We didn't see a whole lot of arguments from hitters and pitchers over the strike zone, and nor did we see a lot of arguments over, calls at first base or second or third either, for that matter. So, no, I thought it was well officiated. And, again, just the energy that's produced by the fans. You could just see how much it really meant to the fans, not just in the U.S., obviously, but clearly Venezuela as well, Dominican Republic, just everybody. I mean, you know how much Japan loves baseball. It really matters. And for the countries like Dominican Republic, Mexico, Venezuela, this is their World Series, really. I mean, and it really is a World Series for them. It's an opportunity for them to showcase and that what they've got in terms of baseball talent. And look, anybody going up against the U.S. in a game of baseball is going to be challenged, just like anybody going up against Canada is going to be challenged in hockey. But boy, oh boy, teams really came out and gave the U.S. everything they had, and Venezuela gave them a little bit more than they could handle.
Yeah, a little bit of a controversy, too, on the fact of in the semifinal game, the 2-1 decision where the United States wanted to get into the finals. A little bit of controversy about how that game ended, but I really don't think it was a question of home cooking or anything else. I think that's the way it ended. That's the way they called it. Game's over, and you go to the finals, and that's the way it is. I thought they did a good job. Oh, let's switch over now. And we were chatting before we went on the air. Frank, our executive producer, said he saw the whole thing on Mayfield, and he used to look it up before we went on the air. Maybe you'd explain that before we go to some of the other football news. Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, Frank was just asking me. He heard something about, read something, I guess, Tampa Times or whatever, about Baker Mayfield being in his walk year, which means he's at the end of his contract, which is true. He signed a 3-year restructured deal, and 26 is the last season. Doesn't mean the Bucs can't re-sign him. If he continues to play the way he has, I'll be surprised if they don't re-sign him. Depending on where he takes them, obviously. But look, I don't. I think Baker Mayfield is one of the strengths of this football team, not one of the weaknesses. And I'd be surprised if the Bucs let him get away. Especially if they're somewhere in the middle of the pack. He's a young quarterback still. He's getting better every year, it seems. Maybe the last year wasn't as great a season as he's had. It was very similar to kind of his first season with Tampa Bay as opposed to the season before. But he threw for, just under 4,000 yards. Had fewer interceptions than the previous year. Not as many touchdowns, obviously. But you know what? Their offense was compromised, too, a lot. Especially, throughout the receiver position. Mike Evans missed a good chunk of the season. They didn't have Chris Godwin for a good chunk of the season. The tight end group was minimized a bit. So, look, if the Bucs, if there's a strength on the Bucs, the quarterback position is one of them. So this may be the last year of Baker Mayfield's contract, but don't be surprised if you see him re-signing a new deal. Someday that could happen before the season starts. Believe it or not.
Well, 15 trades last year before the draft. This year so far, we've had 18 trades. Made one beat before the league gets underway, so that's a little bit of a jump. And number two, we've got a couple of quarterbacks. Justin Fields, of course, goes over to the Chiefs, and Andy Dalton goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Roger, so your thoughts there?
Well, you never know, okay? And I never thought that I see Andy Dalton in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform, but I guess they want to have a really good third quarterback because I'm pretty sure they're just going to stay with the one that they've had that they've grown that came, I think, from Purdue. And but the NFL not for long, and things change daily. We talked about it before. The NFL always keeps you on the seat, of the couch, waiting for something to happen, and it usually doesn't happen. So now we're getting ready in about a month, maybe a little less, for the draft, and so it's going to build up to the draft, and the NFL does a great job. But I did want to say this about baseball. I thought it was interesting last night when the medals were presented, and there was a lot of good admiration, feelings by the U.S. players to the commissioner when he presented the medals to some of the players, and then he just congratulated because they did a rotation on presenting the silver medals. And the gold too to Venezuela, but I thought that was interesting. It looked like there was some love there, but I wonder when everything gets down to the talks about the new CBA. I wonder how much love there'll be between management and the players then.
Well, let me put this sort of this in Roger's comment. I thought that was the weakest part of the night, to be honest with you. I thought it was long. It was tedious. You can see, I mean, going up there as professional baseball players to get a second place silver medal, I thought that was weak. And it took them so long to do it. I mean, it was just endless. But let's go back to football for a second, because the Max Crosby deal is not over yet. He came out with a big statement on his podcast saying that he always wanted to be a Raider. He wants to be a Raider. He wants to end his career as a Raider. So he's back in the news, and how upset he was with what happened at Baltimore and the way the organization handled that whole trade. Roy?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's very interesting what happened there. I mean, it's one of the real risks you run when you trade a player. You better make sure that he's going to go to that team that you're trading him to, because if he, for whatever reason, comes back, it may be a tough situation. Suddenly, it's like dumping a girlfriend and then asking her, to come back to you. It's not a good thing. So, but I think, look, I believe Crosby. He didn't want to be traded. I don't think the Raiders, really wanted to trade him. I think they got, they were handed a deal that you kind of look at yourself and say, okay, well, I don't know that we could pass this up. A rebuilding team, you get 2 first-round picks. And that's hard to pass up, and no matter who you're giving up. And I think you look at that and you say, okay, and I'm sure Crosby can understand it, but they got some time. They got a wound to heal here, and the fact that Crosby really wants to be a part of the Raiders, I think, is important. So we'll see how it goes, and I think at the end of the day, look, Max Crosby's a professional. If he's healthy enough, he'll continue to play as one of the top rush ends in the league, and that won't surprise anybody.
Roger, any comment before we go to our last feature in the National Football League and jump back into something else?
No, I agree with Roy totally. I think he's a professional. I understand why he feels the way he does about the way it might have been handled by the Ravens, but no, I agree. He'll produce, and if he's not injured, he'll be right there producing like he has.
Roger, Denver needed a receiver. They got Waddle, but I think Miami made a nice deal. I mean, they got themselves some personnel and some drafts. I mean, I like that trade. Both sides. I think Denver needed some receivers, some strong receivers. They got one, but they also gave up a lot to get them.
Well, it's that way. If you're going to make a good deal, and it's good for both sides, you're going to have to give up something to get something, and I'm sure I feel it is going to help Denver immensely, because they do need it. They do need to add to their receiving core, and we'll just have to wait and see how trades work out. As I said before, sometimes the best deal is the deal that's not made. And that might be the case with Max Crosby, staying with the Raiders. They're liable to turn it around. We've seen teams turn it around fairly quickly in the NFL. And it might be in a couple of years that'll be the best thing that ever happened to Max Crosby. You never know.
Any comment there, Roy?
Well, yeah, I think, Denver got a lot better picking up Waddle. I mean, they certainly, as you said, they need a receiver. They've got a good young quarterback, and now they get a receiver who is probably going to benefit from this. I mean, he's had one 1,000-yard season. That was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, I guess. Almost had 1,000 last year. But playing with a quarterback who wasn't always on top of his game. So this helps Denver immensely. And look, this is the kind of piece you give up if you're basically rebuilding. It's very similar to the Crosby deal, just different positions, obviously, and different sides of the ball. Two teams clearly rebuilding, Las Vegas and Miami, and you give up these top-level players for first-round picks or more, and that helps you to rebuild. So, if you've got a player like a Waddle and you're not really going anywhere, you feel you're in a 2 or 3 year rebuilding phase. Same with the Raiders. You got a Crosby, and you got 2 or 3 years that you're going to try to rebuild things. Yeah, you can use those players to get a couple of extra picks that help you to achieve your objective there. So it works out. This is a deal that should work out well for both teams, assuming that the Dolphins make good use of that 30th overall pick. If they don't, they're gonna rue the day that they let Waddle get away. But at the end of the day, I think this has the potential to make both teams better, and to me, that's the sign of a good trade.
Before we swing over to basketball, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, one of the comments that was made throughout the day on ESPN, and that was that so much is going on right now because there are so many young quarterbacks, or young general managers, not quarterbacks, young general managers that are coming into the league, and they are more than willing to get on the phone and make some moves, and that's why they think there's been 18 moves made already, the most that have been before the draft, and they think that's the reason. Roger?
I agree. You mentioned about that Andy Dalton deal. Carolina got a 7th round on that, and they still feel that Tanner McKee, I should say, is going to be the backup for the Eagles. But what I didn't realize is that the new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion, he's going to go on a more traditional passing game, the offense, and they think that's why they brought Andy Dalton in, because he is out of that mold, and so that makes sense now. I did not know that Sean Mannion, that's the first time he's going to be calling plays. I did not know he wanted to go more with the traditional passing offense, which I think is going to change a lot of things, especially with the way Jalen Hurts operates.
Roy Cummings?
Yeah, if you're asking about all the trades, look, teams trying to get themselves in the best position they can as they reshape their rosters. We're at that point of the year where, free agency's on. It wasn't really a banner free agency, group, I don't think. It wasn't, maybe a dozen players at most that were really top level that, were out there and available. Most of them are guys that make you a little bit better in a spot, that, middle linebacker, things like that, and so there weren't a whole lot of headline moves with free agency. When that happens, you tend to see a few more trades, and as we've seen this year, we see a few more teams giving up the better players, moving forward now, as opposed to, facing that opportunity or, that likelihood a year from now. And, other teams can benefit, they make the move. So It's interesting that, I think there's more of interestingly, I'm not sure what it means about the draft, but it does seem as if you've got more teams willing to move their first-round picks this year, and maybe some others as well, than we've seen in the past. So I don't know what that says about the draft. Maybe it's not as deep as it could be. I know it's a good receiver draft. I think it's a pretty good O-line draft. But it's not real deep at quarterback, which is usually what kind of generates the most excitement. So we'll see how it goes, but that might have something to do with it too, guys.
Hello there, this is Larry.
Hey, Larry, it's Frank.
Hey there, Frank. Just walked in the house.
Oh, nice.
Your timing is excellent.
All right, I'll put your mic live, and we're going to, as soon as we finish up with Roy Cummings, we'll go right to you.
Okay.
Quite well. He's had, as everybody knows, he's had a lot of difficulty himself with the cancer, and they talked a lot about his banquet and the things that he has been able to do in supporting Willie for the cancer and the Valvano fund, and he certainly has done a tremendous job there. But what a game! Came down to the last minute or last 1.9 seconds. Back hit the field goal that won the game for Texas to put them into the tournament to play BYU in the first round. But just an indication of what this tournament is going to bring. And my personal feeling is, Roger, there are 18 or 20 teams. That's the way it can go. I mean, I don't think there's a clear favorite. Maybe you guys see it differently. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree. And I'm looking at my men's bracket. And I'll be very honest with you. I'll tell you right now, and you might laugh, but I have Michigan State and I have Florida and in the Final Four, and I have Arizona and Michigan. And I have the final is Florida and Arizona is the winner. And I will tell you, and I know, Don, I told you this previously, that the toughest thing I had to decide last night was the Kansas. I figure Kansas is going to beat Cal Baptist in the first game, and also that St. John's is going to beat Northern Iowa. So now it's St. John's and Kansas, two great coaches, a 5 against a 4. Kansas is a 4. And I finally decided I'm going to go with Kansas. But it wouldn't surprise me if I get knocked out quickly on that one, because I think it could be St. John's. I said this in school today to the athletic director and one of the coaches, and he agreed. He thought it was a tough call because you got two great coaches. The records are very, comparable. But the reason I stayed away from St. John's is I think the Big East this year was not as strong as it's been. And I think there were only 5 teams that were over 500. And I felt that the Big 12 was probably a little better overall. And but that's my position. I've got Arizona as the winner. I'm anxious to hear your picks.
Roy Cummings, Coach Hill, Roy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, guys. I think more than ever, it's because of NIL. It's not as big a thing in basketball as it is with football, but it still allows basketball schools to keep players. Players are sticking around a little bit longer, and I think that's why we've got a situation here this year where you can literally throw a dart at the board and hit a team and say, okay, pick them to win the championship. Look, you're always going to favor the top seeds, no doubt about it. And I've got Duke beating Arizona in my championship game. Battles like St. John's and Kansas, it's a 4 and a 5 seed against each other. They're both really darn good. It's a coin flip. And I think, just as, college football is keeping some players around a little bit longer, and I think it's just as NIL has actually made college football better, I think it's making college basketball better too, guys. it's just allowing teams and players to stick around a little bit longer. Players to stick around a little bit longer, rather. And I think that's making teams more viable for longer periods of time. And again, these traditional basketball schools, Gonzaga, places like that, this is an opportunity for them to, build some momentum over and maintain it, for 2 or 3, 4 years. Look, Gonzaga's always there, but at the end of the day, this I think has made college basketball a little bit more competitive, and I think we're going to see it play out in the tournament here. Don't be surprised when 12 beats 5 and 11 beats 6 and 14 beats 3 somewhere. It could happen, guys, a lot.
I agree with that 100%. I think there 20 teams in there that you can't pick. It's going to come down to the last minute, last 30 seconds, maybe last 5 seconds, like last night's game did between Texas and North Carolina State. But I also want to give a little bit of a salute last night to the round bound of rebound. He was an analyst last night with Nick Vitale last night. And he did a pretty good job on a college game. He usually works all the pro games on TNT and great NBA player in his own right. But I'll tell you, he did a very nice job last night working with Nick Vitale and on the true broadcast. So I thought that was quite good as well. And as I said, that game came down to the last second, 0.9 before Mac hit the shot that won it for Texas to put him in the tournament. And I think there are just going to be so many teams like that in this tournament as we follow it day in and day out. And Roger, I agree that with you and Arizona, as we don't see Arizona as much as we see some of the other teams because obviously they're playing on the West Coast and they come back and forth and we had to stay up late to see it. But I think clearly they're just a shade over Duke. Duke has not really played real well. They've won 2 of the last 3 games, but they've won it within the last 45 seconds of the game, which is a little surprising with the talent they have on the floor, Roger.
Yeah, I agree, Don. And I did want to send out a couple of congratulations. Number one, to a good friend of ours, Fran McCaffrey, that took the Penn Quakers against Yale. That was a tremendous game. That went overtime. And as I told you on Sunday, I was watching the SEC championship, and all of a sudden they're talking about this great Penn-Yale game that's underway. And I flipped that over and watched that. And Fran McCaffrey, I believe, it has taken 5 different teams to the NCAA tournament. And I remember, he was at Lafayette, and he was at Penn before, right? And but he was at Iowa, and now he's back at Penn. So congratulations to Fran, and best wishes to his brother Jack, who's a good friend of ours, who's had some health issues. The other thing I wanted to say was from a local standpoint, and that is that Kennesaw State, which is up off of 75. They were 21-13. They won their conference. They're only a 14 seed. But I know a lot of students and parents that have kids that are going to Kennesaw State. Eventually, it'll be the highest populated university in the state of Georgia. And I know Agnes Baronato, who we know well from her days at Tech and also at Pitt, coaching women's basketball and Gloucester City. She was there and doing the women's head coach, but she had health issues several years ago, and so I followed Kennesaw, and I just and Georgia's also in it. They are a 8 seed. So congratulations to the Georgia teams that are in the big tournament.
And they did a big feature last night on the first of the game because of the anniversary of that they walked in and beat UCLA in the first round, and that last night was the anniversary of that. Of course, the great coach Pete Carroll at Princeton for so many years, and everybody likes to take a look at the Ivy League. They stay with the rules in most cases. They don't give in to everything. They finally have allowed some of their teams to have a 4-team playoff now to get into. And as you said, McCaffrey won with The University of Pennsylvania was really the 4th seed because Yale was one. What there was Yale, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, and the 4th year was Cornell. Cornell, I think, was in there too. And Penn won it. McCaffrey won it. So Penn goes to the NCAA. So again, Roy, as we're talking, you never can tell. The competition is so close. You may be picked 4th, but you really wound up winning the whole thing.
Don Roy had a lead.
What I said earlier is that this tournament could be really special because I think there's just a lot of parity throughout the game now, and don't know the reason for it specifically, but I got to think that it has a lot to do with the fact that players are sticking around a little bit longer now to play out their college careers as opposed to 1 or 2 and done and move on to the NBA or the developmental league. And I think that, as I said, it's good for college basketball. And should be good for should result in a great tournament this year, guys. Really looking forward to it. So I'll leave you with that, guys. And next week we'll talk about where we are in the tournament because it all starts tomorrow.
Great.
Who's your
Thanks,
pick, Roy? You said Duke, right?
Yeah, I've got Duke beating Arizona in the finals.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you guys vary. He goes for Duke, you go for Arizona. And we're going to go to the treasurer of the Philadelphia Sports Writers, and that is Larry Litwin. And he's in his car because he's umpiring games, Little League games, Babe Ruth League games. He's been umpiring for about 40 years now. But Larry Litwin is one of the great people in Philadelphia, one of the great people in the Philadelphia Sports Writers. Nobody does it better than he does. Larry, welcome to the show once again.
Well, thank you, and hello, sports fans.
Yeah.
Tell them a little bit about this banquet because you set a record every year, and it just keeps getting longer and longer. You had a great banquet this year. A lot of people turned out. You had, boy, what a diet this year.
Well, we had a great day, and I am at home. I got home. The game ended. It was a pretty good ball game today. It's my 48th year umpiring high school,
48
college ball.
Wow.
48. And they won me back. It amazes me. But we had a great day this year. The Philadelphia Sports Writers dinner was dinner number 128. Can you imagine 128? And I for the first time, I had been the MC for 27 years after Harry Callis stepped down, and then Harry passed away. And this year, Jeff Ash took over, although they had me come up to the dais a couple of times. But it was a great dinner. We had almost 500 people in the audience, which was one of our best turnouts in years and years. And I have some of the award winners in front of me, looking at their pictures because we have just a wonderful program. And it's interesting, or coincidental, you were talking about the McCaffrey brothers. I'm looking at Franny and his brother Jack McCaffrey. We honor them. Franny was our native son, and Jack McCaffrey got the Stan Hochman Award, which goes to a writer from the Philadelphia region, and he was a unanimous choice. And as far as native son, who better coming back home than Fran McCaffrey? Now he's back at the University of Pennsylvania, and they were just outstanding. But some of the other dais guests from Princeton lacrosse, Mackenzie Blake, and I won't go through all of them, but we had a young lady, Santa Conahan from Temple University, who was a scholarship winner. Kevin Nagandi, many people know him from television. He got the Bill Campbell Award. The late, great Bill Campbell was a longtime member and quite active with the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association. Christopher Sanchez was our pro athlete of the year. And he didn't have a whole lot to say because he doesn't speak a lot of English, but he got a standing ovation. And we had an interpreter there. So as he thanked everyone, as I say, he got a standing ovation. The Phillies manager topper, Rob Thompson, he's always an outstanding, just a great speaker, did a tremendous job. And our living legend was Dave Schultz, and the Hammer Dave Schultz, and he just brought the house down, and he's an eloquent speaker. We also had, as we often do, we like to have a comedian, and the comedian is Joe Conklin. And the people from the Philadelphia region, they know all about Joe Conklin. He's a man of, I'll say, 1,000 voices. He can impersonate just about anybody and everybody. He did a great job this year. And he's getting close to me as far as he can talk the way I talk. He came on and said, hello, sports fans. But he does Dan Baker, he does Harry Callis, he does Bill Campbell, he does a number of the female announcers that we know, that we've heard on television as well. So it was just, again, a successful dinner. And as I say, we had dropped off, some of the attendance had dropped off. Last year was around 400, and this year we were just under 500. And if we include the tremendous dais, we probably had just over 500 people in the ballroom at the Hilton Hotel in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Just tremendous, just a tremendous place. It's now called to give them full credit, it's now called the DoubleTree at Hilton, and they do a great job for us. It's in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, mainly because they're competitive, and thanks to them, we charge a fair price for the dinner. Still, it may be the last sports writers dinner in the country where a ticket is under $100. So that's another reason we draw so many. Just so great to see so many people come out again.
Laura Litwin, our special guest this half hour, we talk about the Philadelphia Sports Writers, our banquet, and some of the things that they do during the course of the year. Kevin DeGandhi, of course, you mentioned, for those folks down in the Sarasota area, he, for a long period of time, in his early days, that's where he started off in Sarasota, Florida, at the ABC station in Sarasota. I saw him 10, 15 years ago. And then he moved over to ESPN and has done a terrific job over there and is moving right up the ladder. Roger?
Well, you want to hear something? I got to tell you something really coincidental about Kevin. He talked about working in Iowa, and he worked at two stations that I worked at. He was in Kirksville, Missouri, and in Tomo, Iowa. And I'm sitting there, I'm saying to myself, how can this be? How can two people in the same room once work in Kirksville, Missouri, and in Tomo, Iowa? So, but Kevin was he turned out to be our keynote speaker, accepting the Campbell Award, and just phenomenal. You see him on television, he was better than he was on television.
Terrific guy. I'll tell you, he's just, you couldn't ask for a nicer guy, not only to win the award, but to watch on ESPN day in and day out. Roger?
I agree.
Oh, he's tremendous, and I love him with Booger McFarland. I think they're a tremendous team, and of course Kevin, local guy, went to Temple. But you know what's great, Larry, to get a nationally known sportscaster who's from the area and who will come back to a banquet. Okay, yes. You know, I think that when Susie Colbert was at ESPN, if she had ever been honored, that would have brought a lot of people, because she was from Upper Dublin and then went to Miami. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about was some of these other picks. I mean, that is a big, like Don said, that is an impressive dais. And I did want to find out the Fran McCaffrey. That was native son, I think you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And who would have thought that 6 weeks later, right? 2 months later, we'll say, here he is in the big tournament. I wonder if he thought that he was going to be in it at that time.
I went to the Penn Columbia game with a neighbor this year, just a few weeks ago, and just to watch Fran coach, and it's so gratifying to see him back at the Palestra. It was just great.
Well, his son dates Caitlin Clark, right?
Oh yes, another one. How about that?
Yeah.
The other thing, I think that Chuck Daly and Penn, when they went to North Carolina and won that big game, but nobody expected him to win. Of course, Chuck came back and then became Billy's assistant coach with the Philadelphia 76ers. But I think that's the last run that Penn really made a major indentation in the NCAA tournament by beating North Carolina and North Carolina.
Well, Philadelphia's thrilled that he's back, and it's interesting you mention Penn because I've got Penn paraphernalia all over my little office here. My son went to Penn. Now he teaches at Cornell. So you mentioned both of those schools, and it's just the Ivy League is. It may not be the Big Ten or the SEC, but I love watching Ivy League basketball because it's so competitive, and whether they give scholarships or not, they do give grants. It's just really good basketball, and they move the ball around. It's not like the old days. I know they have a clock, but it's good, enjoyable baskball.
And nobody better than Pete Carrill when he was there. The late Pete Carrill, what a great guy, what a wonderful coach. And I mean, he really he didn't give in. He coached the game the way it was coached when he started, and he coached that way when he finished. He was just a man by himself. Roger.
Yeah, the other I forget who it was, but I was very impressed with the most courageous. Talk a little bit about the most courageous winner, Larry.
The I believe I'm trying to think the most. Who did we do with the most courageous this year?
Well, Mike Shute, was the one that I think presented. And I forget, but I was really impressed with the bio.
It was Juan Nomden. He was the most courageous. He's a baseball coach at Frankfurt High School. And
that's what it was. Yes.
Yes, he overcame cancer. He fought cancer, overcame it, and he was another one that. And in the past, we did not in advance give the name of the most courageous, but we broke that a couple of years ago, and now we do announce in advance. And he became the national ambassador for the American Cancer Society's what they call Making Strides Against Breast Cancer campaign. And as he said, most people don't think about males having breast cancer. But he said when he felt the lump, he didn't give it a thought. And then somebody said to him, you really should go in and see a doctor. And thanks to an early diagnosis and surgery, he's on the road. He is on the road to recovery, and he's a survivor. And he said 3 words that people should never want to hear from any doctor. And I'm reading a quote that I marked down. You have cancer. And he said they are the 3 scariest words a person can hear from a doctor.
And Don and I agree with that 100% because we've heard those 3 words, each one of us.
Yeah, well, make that 3 of us.
Yeah, certainly you look forward to. No question about that. I talked about Dick Vitale last night back on the air doing that Texas. And another terrific guy for cancer. I mean, nobody's raised more money. I mean, you can talk all you want to about his sports coaching, about his broadcast. But when you talk about it, you got to talk about what he's raised for cancer. It's just unbelievable. His banquet is terrific.
And just the overall awareness, because people do think it can't happen to them, but it can.
Yes, it can. And I think you got to make a little mention too of Dave Schultz, because a lot of people, Dave was a candidate in everybody's mind when he was playing. And whether he was good or whether he was bad, depended on which team you were on.
Yes,
but I'll tell you, what a guy, and what an effort he put into every Flyer game.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. One thing with that man, not that they don't all come to play, he came to play.
I thought that TL might have been the presenter of Dave Schultz because he's our number 1 hockey contact on the show, Larry. Tom LeMaine.
Oh yeah, and we didn't have most of the presentations They didn't call up separate as we've done in the past because people say it slows down the program. So Jeff Asher was the MC, made most of the presentations. There were a couple that were special, but for the most part, the MC, and as I said, this year was Jeff Ash, and he did
no jokes though, right? From Jeff, no jokes.
No jokes. We discussed that. He's one of those. I have to, and I've said to Jeff, I said, Jeff, you remind me of Bob Hope. You tell a joke, and you're the first one who laughs at it, if not the only one. So,
Larry Litwin, our special guest treasurer of the Philadelphia Sports Writers for so many years, and I think there are two things we could touch on. Everybody talks about the support that the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans give and the support that the Phillies get. But I got to tell you, when it comes to something like the banquets, the Flyers turn out. I mean, we're talking about a long time ago when Bernie Fran, Schultz, but they're there. If something happens with the Flyers, they are there and they support the National Hockey League and they support Philadelphia and they support the Flyers.
Well, the Flyers as a team, and it goes back to the days of this time, they buy several tables, and so do the Phillies. And thank goodness for the Flyers and the Phillies, and the Sixers do. They do send representatives. It's pretty difficult because they're playing at the same time. Pardon me, but they did have this year. We had Jermaine Jones, and he was on what's called the Living Legend team. So he showed up and represented the 76ers. But as far as Eagles, Ron Jaworski is there, former Eagle, and he's a great supporter. But we don't see, unfortunately, a lot of Eagles coming to the dinner, and we're working on that to rebuild our relationship with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Roger?
Well, we've been working on it for a number of years, yes. And I know I worked on it for several years when Derek Boyko was there, and hopefully the tide will turn because they can benefit from the banquet. Not that they need a lot of fandom and everything, but I think it's just to expose a lot of their players to the community. I was very impressed with Jordan Davis' press conference after he signed his new contract. I mean, he showed up in a nice conservative suit. He looked tremendous, and he is very well spoken, which I knew. Yes. But he is a tremendous young representative of the Eagles organization and the players. Do you feel that way, Larry?
Oh, I absolutely do. I'll say a new, young, great face of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's wonderful to see him, and he's gotten involved in the community, which also is important to the Eagles and just to the Philadelphia region. When I say that, I'm including Delaware. We go across the bridge to Delaware, and certainly over here to southern New Jersey.
Right.
Well, when you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles or the Philadelphia Phillies, and mentioned this a moment ago, to support that not only the players but the fans of the Flyers for so many years. It's just amazing, and for the Eagles. For a long time, Larry, they did participate, and they just sort of slid away a little bit. And as you said, people don't realize the work that goes into it. The staff that you have, they're all members of the Philadelphia Sports Writers, and how much work has to go into getting all these people, making all the awards, scouting down who should get the awards. 4, 5, 6, 7 names come in. Everybody's got to vote on what they think is the right thing. It's a full-time, almost a full-time job for 3 months.
Yes, it is.
It sure is, Larry.
I'm kind of glad because
all volunteers too.
All volunteers, and a couple things. none of the guests get any money, and none of the people who work in the sports writers or members of the sports writers who put in so much time, no one gets any money. In fact, even now, we kind of laugh when we have a meeting, we pay for our dinner. And back in the day, we did not do that, but because of ethics and the Internal Revenue Service, we said, the sports writers can't pay for dinners at the meeting. So we all just go and we pay our way and eat. And if we invite a guest to come to the meeting, we certainly pay for the guest. But it's a whole, part of the fun. It's a whole different ballgame now.
And the other thing, Larry, is the membership. The dues, I don't mean to have to announce how much it is, but I mean, that really is immaterial because, I mean, it's
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Fran, it's Frank Carroll calling back for the show. Just give me a call at 941-685-4540 when you get time. Thank you.
For years, and we award, it's not a lot of money. We give 3 or 4 $1,000 scholarships, which does help buy books, and we honor the recipients at the dinner, and they come up and they get certainly a very nice plaque, and we show them off at the dinner and help get them a little bit of publicity, and who knows where they'll go from there.
Roger, we have 2.5 minutes left in this segment with Larry Litwin. Certainly appreciate Larry spending so much time with us talking about all the things that are happening right now. Athletic-wise in Philadelphia, with the schools, whether they're colleges, high schools, whatever it may be. So you can wind up this half hour. Roger, go to it.
Yeah, well, Larry, because I was involved with Most Courageous for several years.
Yes,
and it's been, dear to my heart, obviously, and with Dan Baker and I think with Kevin and the young lady from St. Joe's. But the thing that I always wondered, and I guess it's my fault, but you get tied up at work doing things. I would love to, of course, I talk to Dan regularly, okay?
Yes.
But to follow up with some of the Most Courageous to see how they're doing. Because, when you pick a Most Courageous, and when we used to keep it secretive, like you had mentioned, I can remember I went and met him in a bar, okay, in Tacony. And because he was, tending bar and I, to get any time, you have to go on site because a lot of times these people are working and it's just not, if they're working in a bar or restaurant, well, the night is where they have the bigger crowds, for dinner, et cetera. So there's just so many great people over the years that have been honored with that award, obviously. And I think Bill Lyon was one year, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah. So there's been some really wonderful award winners. You probably are aware of this because Larry's son-in-law and daughter live in Atlanta. And the HAC is no more as far as the printed paper goes. And we had our good friend Darrell Ledbetter on. He was the Falcons beat writer. We had him on last week because he no longer works. He's going to do some teaching like you have done at the college level and write a book. So you wrote a book. So
yes.
Here, it seems to be that when you get out of the broadcasting or communications, you go on to teaching and writing. So just like you.
Well, Roger, you took up the last 5 minutes of his time. But anyway, to make a long story short, we're going to go from one great person, Philadelphia, Larry Litwin, to another one, Fran Dumphy. Larry, we're going to have Fran Dumphy on talking college basketball, and you talked about Penn. Well, I'll tell you, Fran knows them all, so we're going to talk to him next.
Hey, Don, Fran.
Larry Litwin said hello.
Hey,
I'll do that. He's probably listening right now.
no, he's not.
Take care, Larry. God bless.
Don, we weren't able to get a hold of him yet. We're still trying.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Larry, thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Don, we're still trying to get a hold of Fran. He did not answer his phone. No.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. He's calling in right now. Hey, Fran, how are you? Good. Great. And thank you for doing this tonight. We just finished up with Larry Litwin, and he said to say hello.
All right, very good.
Okay.
But also, just all the work he does, everything he has his hands on everything that goes on. He was down to Stockton College for quite a while. Now he's at the College of New Jersey. As you said, umpiring, it's so many things that he's done over the course, broadcasting at KYW for so many years as well. Just a terrific guy and a great guy for the city of Philadelphia, because he just totally is enamored with what goes on in Philly and what they can write about, what they can talk about, and what he can participate in.
Hey, Don.
Absolutely.
Fran is ready to go.
Okay, we're going to go from one great coach to another great coach. Fran Dumphy, he played such great basketball with LaSalle. He was a coach at the University of Pennsylvania, at Temple University, and then after he retired 3 times, he went back to LaSalle again and decided to put a few more years in. And Fran, welcome to the show once again, and I'll tell you, this basketball tournament coming up may be one of the best of all time.
Well, thanks, Don. Thanks for having me. It'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds, and lots of really good basketball teams. How about how our game of college basketball has changed over the last few years? And it's amazing how the sport of college athletics.
Hey, how you doing?
Where it's going to be in a couple of years, so we need to enjoy it as best we can.
It's right out there.
Well, you took the University of Pennsylvania to the tournament, and I said earlier in the show, I think that the last time I remember before you got down there was when Chuck Daly had the team, went down to North Carolina and really did extremely well for the University of Pennsylvania. But you were there for a great number of years before you moved out, went to Temple, and then came back to LaSalle. Some of your thoughts about Ivy League basketball, Peter Carrill, and the changes between what the game was then and what it is now.
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, very different. Pete Carrill was one of the great coaches of all time, and I learned so much just from coaching against that guy. But the whole world of Ivy League basketball has changed a little bit as well. Back when I was coaching, to be honest with you, it was Penn and Princeton every year. Now, any one of those 8 teams can seemingly win the conference tournament. I'm just so happy to see Penn win it this year on the great play of this kid TJ Power. He just kind of seemingly put everybody on his back and made just amazing shots and played spectacular basketball. And now Penn's back in it. Obviously, be playing a very tough Illinois team in a couple days here. So, but it has to be fun for those kids and for Fran. And I'm sure all of the University of Pennsylvania is very happy. Interesting, Fran came in and replaced Steve Donahue, and then Steve Donahue had a chance to coach at St. Joe, and he had a fantastic year as well. And he's playing tonight in the NIT.
Yeah, I thought you might get into the NCAA. It was sort of a borderline situation, and you're exactly right. Roger, you're up.
Fran, always a pleasure to talk to you. And I got to tell you, I was watching the SEC championship on Sunday, and all of a sudden they're talking about this Penn-Yale game. And I flipped it in a hurry and got to see it at the end and then the overtime. But I thought if there's anything that got a good publicity for the Ivy League, it's people watching an SEC championship game being promoted, about their game. Because I'm sure a lot of people flipped over to see the ending of that great game. But
not only, as Don was saying, I think that this is one of the great tournaments that I've ever been around. It got me more interested in making picks than I ever had before. And I'm also very excited because I'm a big fan and proponent of women's basketball. I just am wondering if Gina Auriemma wins the national title again and is undefeated, if maybe this is when he retires. I know you're all a group that are good friends and down at the shore in the summer. You think that could be a possibility?
Well, it could, although I certainly would never speak for Gino. He's going to do whatever Gino wants.
Oh, sure.
How about how successful he's been for all of these years? He's had an amazing program and just a remarkable job that he has done. So whatever he wants to do is okay by me, and I hope it's something that will make him happy. But my guess is he's a born coach, and he'll probably do this for a few more years.
Yeah, he doesn't look on the sidelines, Fran, like he's looking to go out. He wants this undefeated season as much as anyone. He's at 10 now where he's, not only does he win, but I mean, he's able to recruit so effectively and to coach so effectively. And these girls seem to, I'm not that close to women's basketball, but just seem to admire and go out and recruit for him. I mean, they want to bring more people in to make it better and better.
Yeah, he's a remarkable coach.
Take as much as you want. Take as much as you want.
Was down at Virginia, and of course she went with the Dawn to the NCAA tournament. They got to the Final Four a couple times, and of course Dawn's now killing everybody at South Carolina, yeah. And I'll tell you, women's basketball has really taken a big jump too, Fran.
No question about it, and a lot of it is just the quality of these kids that play the game. I mean, they're so talented athletically, and they just know how to play, and it's beautiful to watch.
Roger?
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting down here in the Atlanta area, Fran. There's a freshman girl at one of the high schools locally, and she is being watched only as a freshman. She's unbelievable. But we want to get back to Philadelphia college basketball. Look at I think what's great is Phil Martelli's son, Phil Jr., has VCU in the tournament. And it says a lot about you and all these other native Philadelphians that have just been so successful with college teams over many years.
Yeah, Phil's son just had a fantastic year. They have a really good basketball team, and he's done a terrific job. He and his staff have done great work, and they were probably, I know St. Louis had a great season, but I think as I looked at it, I would think that they're as good a basketball team as there was in the Atlantic 10, and it's great that they won the championship, but if they didn't, I think they should have been in anyway. They're that good a basketball team, but
right.
Very interesting to watch, and it'll be a very good first round opponent for them, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they only lost 7 games, and so they were in good shape going into the tournament. And as you look at the prognosticators, who probably know no more than I do, which is nothing, but they're going to have Illinois to contend with. But I talked to Fran, or Phil, I should say, this afternoon. He was down there, obviously, with his son, and the teams were working out, practicing, and I wish him best of luck, and his son best of luck. He's done a terrific job starting out down there, and they had a great season.
They sure did. They were fun to watch. They had a very deep team.
Right.
Played, and they just were. When you say they lost 7 games, they probably they only lost one of them over the last number of weeks. But they really came on and played well at the end of the year when you want your team playing the best, and they seem to have
had that
He's doing
opportunity.
good.
Roger?
Bill was always great with new lines, and one of the best ones was at the sports writers a couple of years ago when he was an assistant at Michigan. He said he's always reading the paper a couple of weeks behind, and he said all of a sudden he reads that you're coming out of retirement, and Jay Wright was going into retirement. And he said he couldn't figure that one out at all. You remember it a lot right to the T, but I thought that was just hilarious the way he presented that.
Yeah. Well, Jay had a spectacular career at Villanova, and to win 2 national championships and be in the Final Four a couple of other times, just a remarkable run. And it'll be interesting to see if there is any coming out of retirement for him. He's a guy that has done a pretty good job recently creating that work-life balance. And I think he's always been a little smarter than the rest of us too. So the game's changed. The game has changed. It's different, and we'll see what happens with a lot of these guys who weren't coaching for as long as they were.
Ray, you take the next question right away from me. We've talked a few times over the years when you made that decision to come back and try to help your own moderateless and explorers. It is a different. It's not only a different game. It's a different. The entire atmosphere of college basketball with the transfers and the pill and everything that's going on makes it really a change in play in the whole pattern of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just different, Don. I worry about it, how our game can sustain where we are right now, especially for, the schools that aren't in the top leagues. The other part is that I don't know that we're valuing the education as much as we used to or should be. Now, you want that to be at the forefront of why you go to school. Yeah, you want to play basketball and do a great job, but you also want to get an education that's going to help you throughout the rest of your life. And I'm not sure we're valuing that piece to this as much as we should.
Well, let me just follow on a question up. Do you think that not only the NCAA, but the federal government will step in and try to regulate a little bit of what's going on right now? When you think of players making $1 million, before they even get to be a sophomore in college, it's unbelievable to me. But I'm old, and I just don't think they can continue to do what they're doing and have things stay good.
No, I agree. We're just in a very interesting time, but and change is inevitable. We have to embrace it. But I'd like to think that the smarter heads than me can figure out what is the best for the game and for us to continue helping these kids. And so many of them are making a lot of money going to college, and then their college careers will be over, and then we're taking that money away. And so I don't think we know the effect of how the game is making a mark on our players at this point. Are they going to have difficulties later on in their life, or are they taking care of the money that they're making and making good decisions with it and understanding what comes with that responsibility? So there's just so many things that are out there. And you want the school to flourish. You want the school to do a great job of educating, and yet I don't know that we're valuing that education quite as much as we should.
Roger?
At your long tenure at Penn, and then you went to Temple, and then LaSalle. But at Penn, all those many years, you had some really great teams, Fran. And is there one in particular that you'll always just remember because of something special that maybe happened during the season or, in the postseason?
Yeah, I think you have a number of them, Raj. One, like the first great team we had was Jerome Allen and Matt Maloney in the backcourt. They were just terrific players, and our big guys never got any foul trouble because Maloney and Allen, you could never go by those guys. to get to the big guys to get in foul trouble. And they were very good on the offensive end as well. So we won a lot of games. That was fun. The one team that came back, we had a devastating loss to Princeton at the Palestra where we were up 27 points with 15 minutes to go in the game, and there's really no way we could lose the game, except we found a way to do that. And I had to go in at that moment and talk to 13 very blank faces and try to make some sense of what had just happened. And I just value that. And at that point, if you said to me, you can have 2 more points and you can win the game, I would have sold my soul to the devil for that. Except, the last 7 games we played, we won them all, and these guys came together, and instead of really falling apart, they got stronger, and we won the last game, had Princeton by 25 points, and we went to the NCAA tournament. It was maybe as much satisfaction or peacefulness that I've ever had after a game in coaching, because of we overcame the adversity of losing that game. These guys, and when I say it all the time, when the leadership comes from within the group, you're much stronger as an organization. And I felt that way. And they were led by, Michael Jordan and Matt Lango, Jed Ryan, Paul Romancic, Jeff Owens. They were on that team, and they refused to falter. And so that was very meaningful and special as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Matt, because I knew his dad so well, because he was assistant with John for so many years before he passed away. And, nobody revered the game more than his dad did, and the dedication to coaching and to what he did, what a terrific father he had. And it turned out that his son was the same type of person. He was he led your team the way you wanted him to lead it.
He was a terrific player, Matt. And